The galaxy was watching. Across thousands of worlds, on millions of screens, alien eyes stared at the same scene. A human fleet, battered, broken, and surrounded, floated on the edge of destruction. Enemy ships, far more in number, circled like hungry predators. Their weapons glowed, ready to strike. There was no escape. The humans had fought for weeks, but now their defenses were failing. One more push, and Earth's last hope would be gone. In the center of the chaos, Admiral Kalen stood on the bridge of the human flagship Resolute. The metal floor trembled under his boots as another blast from the enemy slammed into their shields. Warning lights flashed red, sparks fell from damaged consoles. The crew worked frantically, shouting status reports, but every message was worse than the last. Shields at 12%. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 9. No reinforcements coming. The alien fleet's commander, High Marshal Zathran of the Kryn Dominion, watched from his massive flagship. He was a towering creature of black scales and golden eyes, and he was smiling. For years, his people had dreamed of crushing humanity. Humans were too bold, too fast, too unpredictable. They didn't obey the old rules of galactic politics. Now, finally, they would be erased. A cold silence spread across the human bridge as the enemy fleet prepared for the final attack. Everyone knew this was the end. Even Kalen, who had led fleets through impossible battles before, felt the weight of it. This was not a fight they could win. They were outnumbered 5-1. Their ammunition was nearly gone, their largest. Ship was running on backup power. All they could do now was die fighting. And then something happened. The hum of the battle's background static changed. At first, no one noticed. It was just a faint, low vibration, like a distant drumbeat, felt more than heard. The Resolute's sensors flickered, then froze. On every ship in the system, alien and human alike, radar screens went black for half a second. When the images returned, there was something new on the map. A single contact. No registration code, no known signature, no matching design in any database. It was moving fast. Too fast. Kalen frowned. "What is that?" he demanded. The sensor officer shook, his head tapping the controls. "Sir, I don't know. It's enormous." His voice trembled as he read the size measurement. "Bigger than anything I've ever seen, twice the size of our largest battleship." The alien commander's voice came over open channels, his tone mocking. "A desperate trick, human? Another useless ship to die with the rest?" But even Zathran's golden eyes narrowed as he saw the readings. No ship that large should be able to move at that speed. And yet, here it came, cutting through space like a blade. The comms erupted with chatter across every frequency. Pirate gangs, neutral traders, and rival empires all watching the battle sent frantic messages to their home worlds. Something unknown has entered the fight. The galaxy didn't know what it was, but they all felt the same thing. Fear. The massive object slowed, its shape now visible against the burning wreckage of the battlefield. Its hull was dark, almost black, but covered in strange glowing lines that pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. The design was unlike any known race. Some parts looked human, hard, angular armor plating. Others looked ancient, almost alien themselves, with curves and shapes no modern engineer would use, and then, without warning, every ship's weapons went offline. Not just humans, not just aliens, everyone. Targeting systems froze, engines faltered, even communication channels went silent, as if space itself had been muted. On the bridge of the Resolute, the crew stared in shock. Kalen gripped the edge of his command chair. He knew weapons could be jammed, but not like this. Not instantly, and not across dozens of ships from different civilizations. Whoever controlled this new vessel had power far beyond anything he had seen. Then the voice came. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even angry. It was deep, steady, and calm, like someone speaking after waiting a very long time. Humanity. Stand down. The words echoed across every frequency, in every language. The aliens froze. The humans exchanged glances. No one moved. The voice spoke again, this time with a quiet weight that sent chills down Kalen's spine. Your fight is not over. But this battle is mine. Without another word, the unknown vessel fired. There was no flash, no roar, no shockwave. Just a thin beam of light, faint and almost gentle, touching the Kryn battleship nearest to it. In less than a second, the alien ship was gone. Not destroyed, not shattered. Gone. One moment it existed, the next it was nothing. Not debris, not sparks, not even dust. Across the battlefield, a ripple of terror spread. The Kryn fleet began shouting in their guttural language, scrambling to understand what had happened. The galaxy's best scientists would later argue about it for years, some calling it a new type of weapon, others saying it wasn't a weapon at all, but something stranger. The massive vessel moved forward, gliding silently between human and alien lines. Its presence seemed to bend space around it, making nearby ships drift slightly without engine power. As it passed the Resolute, Kalen could see tiny details along its hull, scars from ancient battles, faded symbols no one could read, and strange, crystal-like structures that pulsed with light. "Who are they?" whispered the Resolute's first officer. Kalen didn't answer. He didn't know. But deep inside, a thought was forming, one he didn't dare speak aloud. "They're not just here to save us." The unknown vessel turned, facing the heart of the alien fleet. Every Kryn ship aimed its remaining weapons, but none fired. The crews were too afraid. The strange ship's glowing lines brightened, the light pulsing faster now like a rising heartbeat. And then, the battle began again, not between humans and aliens, not even between the two fleets, but between the galaxy's known powers and something far older, far more dangerous, and far more prepared than anyone had imagined. The galaxy, which had been watching with excitement to see humanity fall, now watched in silence, because everyone, human and alien alike, knew the same thing. The battle that should have been lost had just become something much bigger. The strange vessel did not move like other ships. It drifted forward slowly, as if studying everything around it. The alien fleet kept their distance, afraid to attack again. The human fleet stayed still, unsure if this new arrival was truly an ally or just another threat waiting to strike. Inside the Resolute, Admiral Kalen stood in silence, eyes fixed on the glowing shape that now dominated every view screen. The crew worked frantically to bring the ship's sensors back online. But the moment they tried scanning the vessel, their systems froze again, showing nothing but static. "Sir," said the communications officer, "we can't get any clear reading. Our scanners, it's like they're blind when aimed at it." Kalen frowned. "That's impossible." "It's happening, sir. And it's not just us. Alien comms are going crazy. No one can scan it." Across the battlefield, ships from every side were trying to identify the newcomer. No database had its design. No record showed its construction. Even the oldest archives in the galactic network had nothing close. It was as if the ship had appeared from nowhere. No history, no origin, no name. Then, something stranger happened. A low-frequency pulse began to radiate from the vessel. It wasn't a weapon, at least not in any known form. It was a sound, deep, slow, and steady, like a single heartbeat echoing through space. On the Resolute, the sound made the deck plates Crew members felt it in their chests. Some said it was almost like hearing a distant drum underwater. But when Kalen asked for a technical reading of the signal, the science officer looked pale. "It's not coming from their communications array," she said. "It's coming from inside the hull itself. Like the whole ship is alive. The Aliens were panicking. On their secure channel, High Marshal Zathran demanded answers from his intelligence officers. None could explain it. One of them even claimed the sound wasn't just noise, it was a message. When Zathran demanded a translation, the officer hesitated before speaking. It's saying, "Stand by." Over and over, but not in our language, in theirs. Zathran's golden eyes narrowed. Theirs? Whose? The officer swallowed. Humans, sir. On the human bridge, the communications team tried to hail the vessel directly. At first, there was no reply. Then the voice from before returned, calm, unhurried. But this time, there was a weight behind it, as if the speaker already knew how the battle would end. Humanity, prepare to move forward. We have been waiting long enough. The message ended. No identification, no request for permission, just a statement, as if the unknown ship was taking command of the war itself. Before anyone could respond, the massive vessel shifted its angle. Strange panels along its sides unfolded, revealing structures that glowed with an intense blue light. The power readings coming from it made every engineer in the human fleet stop what they were doing. It was energy beyond anything they had measured before, more than enough to destroy the entire battlefield in seconds, but it didn't fire. Instead, the ship transmitted something new, a data burst strong enough to cut through every jamming field in the system. It reached human and alien ships alike. When Kalen's crew opened the file, they expected tactical information or perhaps a warning. What they saw made the entire bridge fall silent. It was a star map, but not a map of known space. The chart showed hundreds of systems that didn't exist in any record. Whole regions of the galaxy, hidden and unknown, marked in detail. And at the center of the map, a single red symbol. The science officer leaned closer to the display. That's not just a map, she whispered. It's a list of targets. Kalen stared at the red symbol. It was shaped like an ancient human rune, something he had only seen in history records. But seeing it here, floating in the middle of an alien war, made his skin crawl. The unknown vessel had not come just to win this battle. It had come for something else, something far bigger. And if the map was real, the galaxy had no idea what was coming next. The star map still glowed on the bridge of the Resolute. No one spoke. No one moved. Every officer, every technician, every soldier stared at the red symbol at its center, wondering what it meant and why the mysterious vessel had shared it. Admiral Kalen stood with his arms crossed, eyes locked on the display. If that map is real, he said quietly, it shows more of the galaxy than we've ever seen. The science officer shook her head. No, sir. It shows more than anyone has seen. Even the oldest alien archives don't have these regions recorded. She tapped a glowing line on the hologram. Whoever sent this has been far beyond our known borders. They've seen places we didn't even know existed. Before Kalen could respond, a warning alarm cut through the bridge. The alien fleet was moving again. High Marshal Zathran had given the order, attack the unknown ship at full power. The Kryn had faced many threats in their history, but they had never backed down from a fight. Dozens of alien battleships moved into formation, their main cannons charged, filling space with blinding light. Every human ship braced for impact, knowing the Kryn wouldn't care if humanity was caught in the crossfire. The first volley hit, but it didn't explode. The energy beam struck the dark hull of the unknown vessel and simply vanished. Not into a shield, not into armor. They were gone, absorbed into the ship as if it were drinking them. The glowing lines along its surface brightened, pulsing faster, as though the ship was feeding on the attack. Gasps spread through the human bridge. It's taking their energy, someone whispered. The Kryn fired again and again, but nothing worked. The vessel moved forward, slow and steady, like a predator closing in. Its size made it seem impossible to stop, twice as long, as the largest battleship with weapons still hidden beneath its black armor. Then, without warning, the panels on its sides shifted. A strange device unfolded from the hull, long, slender, and covered in rotating rings of light. It began to hum, a deep vibration that everyone could feel in their bones. "Sir," the tactical officer said, his voice shaking, I think it's charging something." Kalen didn't reply. His eyes were locked on the glowing weapon. A thin beam of blue light shot forward, almost gentle, barely brighter than a laser pointer. It touched the lead Kryn battleship for less than a second. There was no explosion, no flames, no debris. The ship simply disappeared. One moment it was there, its black armor, its glowing engines, its rows of weapons, and the next it was gone, leaving only a faint ripple in space where it had been. The alien fleet went silent. Entire formations drifted as their pilots froze, too shocked to move. The weapon fired again. Another ship vanished, then another. It didn't matter how far they were or how fast they tried to move. The beam always found its target. On the human bridge, one of the younger officers whispered, "It's not destroying them, it's erasing them." Kalen turned sharply. "Erasing?" The officer nodded, eyes wide. "No wreckage, no explosion. It's like they were pulled out of existence, like they were never there at all." Fear began to spread through the alien ranks. Ships broke formation. Some turned and tried to flee, engines flaring, but the unknown vessel did not chase them. It simply drifted forward, erasing any ship that dared to remain. High Marshal Zathran roared orders to stand and fight, but even his own crew hesitated. The Kryn were fierce warriors, yet they had no name for this kind of weapon. No defense, no strategy. The humans watched in stunned silence as the alien fleet, once an unstoppable wall of power, crumbled in minutes. Kalen felt no joy, no relief, only unease. Because as terrifying as the alien fleet had been, there was something worse about this new arrival. It wasn't just that the vessel could erase ships without effort. It was that it chose when to fire, as if it had already decided which enemies to remove and which to let live. And Kalen had the terrible feeling that humanity's turn might be coming. The battlefield was silent. The Kryn fleet, the same force that had been moments away from wiping out humanity, was now shattered. Half their ships were gone, not destroyed, but erased from existence. The survivors fled into deep space, their engines burning at full power. They didn't stop to regroup. They didn't even fire back. They just ran. On the human bridge of the Resolute, no one cheered. The crew didn't know if they had been saved, or if they had just witnessed the arrival of something far worse. Admiral Kalen kept his eyes on the massive dark vessel as it drifted forward. Its glowing lines pulsed slowly now, as if the ship had finished feeding. Its strange weapon retracted back into the hull, vanishing behind layers of black armor. "Any word from them?" Kalen asked. The communications officer shook her head. "Nothing, sir. Not since the last message. They're silent." But the galaxy was not silent. News of the battle had already spread. In far-off trading hubs, alien merchants whispered, "In fear." In war councils across dozens of empires, rulers demanded answers. Who had built such a ship? How long had it been hidden? And, most importantly, was it human? Some believed it was an ancient weapon from a forgotten war, finally awakened. Others claimed it was not of this galaxy at all. But one fact was impossible to deny. It had chosen to protect the humans. That fact terrified the rest of the galaxy. In the Kryn Dominion, High Marshal Zathran's voice roared in the war chambers. He demanded vengeance, but his generals looked away, unwilling to face such a power again. Their fleets had fought the most advanced human weapons and survived. But this was something different. On neutral worlds, fear turned to quiet, planning. Governments ordered their spies to dig into human history, searching for any clue that this Aegis of Dawn, as some were already calling it, might appear again. If the humans could control it, the balance of power would break forever. On the Resolute, the mood was different. Relief mixed with unease. The mysterious ship had saved them, but no one knew why. And Kalen couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, not by the galaxy, but by the vessel itself. It was then that the ship began to move. Slowly, it turned away from the battlefield. No transmission, no farewell. Its engines, lit with a soft blue glow, and it began to leave. "Sir," the helmsman asked quietly, "should we follow it?" Kalen hesitated. Every instinct as a commander told him to track it, to find out where it was going. But another part of him, the part that had seen too many wars, whispered that following might be the last mistake they ever made. He gave the order. "No pursuit. Let it go." The crew obeyed, but tension filled the air. Everyone knew that the ship could have destroyed both fleets with ease. Yet it had chosen not to. That choice meant it had a plan. Far beyond the battlefield, in the shadow of a dying star, the vessel disappeared into the black. It left behind only questions, and a galaxy that had just realized it was no longer the most dangerous thing in space. The strange vessel had left the battlefield, but not far enough. A few hours after the Kryn retreat, long-range sensors caught sight of it again. It wasn't hiding. It was drifting in the shadow of a fractured moon, its dark hull blending with the debris. It seemed to be waiting. Admiral Kalen stood in the Resolute's command center, staring at the silent giant on the display. His orders were clear from high command. Approach with caution, make contact if possible, and find out who or what it was. The galaxy wanted answers. A small scout ship, the Vigilant, was chosen for the mission. Light, fast, and with a crew of only 12, it could get close without appearing as a threat. Its captain, Commander Elira, was known for her nerves of steel. She would need them. As the Vigilant closed in, the unknown vessel came into full view. Up close, its size was overwhelming. Its hangar doors alone were larger than the Vigilant. Its black armor was covered in scars, deep burns, melted grooves, and impact marks that told of battles fought long before humanity had reached the stars. Strange glowing lines still pulsed slowly, like a sleeping heartbeat. "Captain," the pilot said softly, "something's happening." The massive hangar doors began to open. No signals were sent. No threats were made. Just a slow, deliberate opening, revealing a vast space inside. Commander Elira tightened her grip on the armrest. "They're inviting us in," she said. "Take us inside, slow and steady." The Vigilant glided into the hangar, dwarfed by the towering walls. There were no crew visible, no maintenance drones, no signs of life. Only the faint hum of unseen machinery, and an air so still it felt ancient. They landed on a platform the size of a city block. The crew stepped out cautiously, weapons holstered but ready. The hangar's floor was smooth black metal, reflecting faint blue light from the walls. Far above, massive support beams disappeared into the shadows. Then, without warning, a figure stepped out from the darkness, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing heavy armor that looked human but older, much older than anything in use today. The helmet was smooth, without a visor, and faint blue light glowed from thin lines across its surface. The figure stopped a few meters away. "You came," the voice said, the same calm, deep voice that had spoken during the battle. Commander Elira's heart pounded. "Identify yourself," she demanded, her voice steady. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if considering how to answer. Finally, it spoke again. "I am the keeper of this vessel, and I have been waiting for centuries." The words hung in the air, Waiting for what? Elira asked. For the moment, the figure said, when humanity would stand on the edge of extinction and choose to fight anyway. Silence filled the hangar. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The figure took a step closer. Your war is not just yours anymore. There are forces moving in this galaxy that neither you nor your enemies understand. That is why I have returned. Elira tried to read the figure's tone, but it was impossible. There was no anger, no joy, only certainty, as if everything that had happened was part of a plan. And in that moment, she realized something even more unsettling. The figure hadn't asked who she was. It hadn't asked why they had come aboard. It already knew. The silence in the hangar felt heavy, like the walls themselves were listening. Commander Elira stood facing the armored figure, her crew tense behind her. Every instinct told her to be careful. This was not just a soldier. It was someone, or something with knowledge far older than any human alive. Finally, she asked, "What is this vessel? Where did it come from?" The figure's head tilted slightly, as though considering how much to reveal. Then, in that same calm, deep voice, he said, "This ship was built in the shadows of human history, long before your fleets reached the stars. Before your people joined the galactic stage, there were those who saw the future and feared it." He began to walk slowly along the edge of the platform, his armored boots echoing against the smooth black floor. The blue light from the walls reflected off the lines on his armor. "They knew the galaxy would not accept humanity," he continued. "They knew that one day the other races would turn against you, not for what you had done, but for what you could become." Elira's crew exchanged uneasy glances. His words matched what every human commander had secretly feared. The figure stopped and looked directly at her. So in secret, they built a protector, a vessel unlike any other, hidden away in the farthest reaches of space, beyond the eyes of every empire. It was meant to awaken only when the survival of humanity was at stake. He placed a gauntleted hand on the wall, and the black metal beneath his palm began to glow faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the strange lines that ran across the ship's hull. "This is that vessel," he said. "Its name is Aegis of Dawn." The name carried a weight, as though it belonged to something more than a warship, something that had been waiting not just for years, but for ages. Elira repeated it softly. "Aegis of Dawn." The figure nodded. "It has slept for centuries, watching the galaxy from the dark, and now it is awake." One of her officers finally spoke up. "Who are you? The captain? The builder?" The figure's voice was quiet, but certain. "I am its keeper, the one who ensures it remains hidden until the time is right." Elira narrowed her eyes. "And you decided that time is now?" The keeper stepped closer. "The war you are fighting is only the surface of a deeper conflict. If you lose here, humanity will not have another chance. That is why I have brought the Aegis into the light." His words were clear, but his tone carried a shadow of something unspoken, something he wasn't telling them. Elira felt a chill. She had come here to gather answers, but she realized she might be standing in the presence of a plan that had been in motion for hundreds of years, and that her crew, her fleet, and maybe even all of humanity were now part of it. The hangar felt colder now, even though no temperature had changed. Commander Elira stood still, her eyes locked on the armored figure. Her crew leaned forward slightly, all waiting for him to speak again. The keeper began to walk slowly toward the center of the chamber. "You must understand," he said, his voice deep and steady. "The galaxy you know is built on lies. The alliances, the trade agreements, the peace councils, all of it hides an old truth." Elira frowned. "What truth?" He stopped, facing them. "That long ago humanity was not unknown to the galaxy. You were not newcomers. You were feared. The words hit like a sudden gust of wind. Several of her officers exchanged confused looks. Feared? We were still on Earth, still primitive. How could that be? One of them asked. The keeper's gaze shifted slightly, as if looking into the past. Your kind has walked the stars before, not once, not twice, but many times. Civilizations of humans rose and fell long before your current history began. Each time they grew strong, too strong. The other races saw them as a threat. He took another step forward. And each time, they were destroyed. The crew went silent. Elira tried to keep her voice calm. Destroyed by who? The keeper's tone grew harder. By those who now pretend to be your allies. By the very empires that sit in the Galactic Council. They erased every record of your existence. They burned your worlds. They hunted your ships until none remained. Only fragments of your people survived, scattered across the stars, hiding among others. Her heart pounded. Then, Earth, the keeper interrupted, was a refuge, a place your enemies could not easily reach. They left it alone, thinking humanity would remain there forever, small and harmless. He let the silence stretch before adding, they were wrong. He turned toward the towering black wall of the ship, where glowing lines pulsed like a heartbeat. The Aegis of Dawn was built by the last survivors of your earlier age. They poured all their knowledge, all their fury, into this vessel. They knew the galaxy would strike again, so they left this ship sleeping, hidden in the void, waiting for the moment your people needed it most. And now, he said, looking back at Elira, that moment has come. The commander's mouth was dry. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but with them came an even greater fear. If the galaxy had destroyed humanity before, then this war might not be about territory or resources at all. It might be the final attempt to erase humanity forever. The chamber seemed to close in around them. Even the hum of the ship's systems felt quieter now, as if the vessel itself was listening. The keeper's gaze moved slowly across the faces of the crew. You must understand, he began. The enemy is not fighting to win this battle. They are fighting to end you. Elira's throat tightened. End us? He nodded once. They will not accept surrender. They will not take prisoners. Their fleets are moving on every human colony at once. This war is not a mistake or a misunderstanding. It is a purge. The crew shifted uncomfortably, the weight of his words pressing down like gravity. One officer spoke, voice shaking. But the council signed the defense accord with us. They said they lied. The keeper cut in, his tone sharp. The council is not your shield, it is their weapon. Every promise they made was to keep you unprepared. Your fleets are smaller than theirs. Your weapons outdated. Your intelligence blind to their real strength. They wanted you to believe you were safe, so you would not be ready when the knife came. He turned toward the dark wall again, and the lines of light running along it began to glow brighter, like veins filling with fire. But the Aegis of Dawn was built for this moment. Its systems can stand against entire armadas, its weapons can break the siege fleets, and its defenses— He let the words hang, a shadow of a smile crossing his face— are beyond anything they have ever faced. Elira tried to steady her voice. Then we have a chance. The keeper looked at her for a long time. You have a chance if you are willing to pay the price. This ship will not fight alone. To awaken its full power, you will need to call every human warship, every captain, every soldier willing to stand. But know this, once you rise, there will be no going back. The galaxy will see you as humanity's leader, and they will come for you first. A cold silence fell over the chamber. Elira's crew stared at her, their unspoken question hanging in the air. Was she willing to lead them into a war they might not survive? The keeper broke the silence. Decide Quickly! The fleets are moving faster than you think. Soon, even the Aegis will not be enough. Outside the ship's massive hull, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter. Cold, distant witnesses to a war that would decide whether humanity would stand or vanish forever. The decision came faster than the crew expected. Elira didn't pace, didn't hesitate. She looked the keeper in the eye and said, "Wake the ship, prepare every weapon, send my voice across the stars." The keeper tilted his head slightly, as if measuring the weight of her resolve. Then, with a silent command, the walls of the chamber shifted. Lights flared, the floor trembled, and far away, deep in the Aegis of dawn, massive systems roared to life. Elira stood before a pulsing console, a thin beam of light casting her face into sharp focus. The keeper stepped aside, letting her speak. "This is Captain Elira Vance, commanding the vessel Aegis of Dawn." Her voice rang through the ship's comms, amplified and carried on hidden channels only human warships would recognize. "To every human ship, every captain, every soldier, hear me. The war is not what we were told. The Council has betrayed us. The fleets moving against our colonies will not stop. They will burn our worlds to ash unless we stand together. Now." Her voice did not shake. "We are humanity's last shield. We are its final strike. If you hear my voice, set your course for my signal. We will meet the enemy on the edge of Orion's gate. Come ready to fight, ready to bleed, ready to win. The galaxy believes this war is already decided. We will prove them wrong." She cut the transmission, and for a moment the silence in the control room was deafening. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. No one knew if anyone would answer. No one knew if the call had gone out too late. Then the replies began to arrive. At first, only a few. Warships battered from previous battles, captains speaking through damaged comms, promising they would come. Then more. Dozens. Scores. One voice came from the edge of known space. "This is the carrier Invictus. We've been running for weeks. Turning around now. We'll be there." Another came from the shadow of a burned colony. "You're not fighting alone, Captain. We've been waiting for someone to take the lead." The keeper's eyes glimmered faintly as he watched the growing list. "The spark has been struck," he murmured. But even as hope began to rise, the Aegis's sensors lit up with a warning. Multiple enemy fleets were already changing course. They had intercepted the transmission, and now they were coming straight for her. The Aegis of Dawn had barely finished transmitting the rallying call when the alarms began to scream. Red lights pulsed across the bridge, casting the crew in a blood-colored glow. "Multiple fleets inbound," shouted the tactical officer. His voice was tight with panic. "They've locked onto our signal source. Their jump drives are all ready. Spooling up!" On the central display, the hollow map lit with crimson markers, enemy signatures spreading like fire across a star chart. These weren't scattered patrols or damaged ships. This was a concentrated strike force moving faster than expected, designed for one purpose: to kill Elira and silence the Aegis before reinforcements could arrive. The keeper stepped closer to the display, his expression unreadable. "They come not to fight, but to erase." Elira's jaw tightened. "How long before they're here?" "First wave, 7 hours. Second, 11, came the reply. "The third will arrive with overwhelming numbers." The crew knew what that meant. If the first 2 waves pinned them in place, the third would crush them completely. She turned to her officers. "We cannot let them corner us. Prepare the outer defenses. Bring the point defense turrets online and—" Her gaze shifted to the keeper. "Wake whatever weapons your ship still hides." The keeper's lips curled slightly. "It will be done." Hours later, the blackness of space shuddered. The first enemy fleet burst out of hyperspace, sleek. "Warships in tight formation. Weapons already charging. They're jamming comms," the comm officer warned. "They want to cut us off from the rallying fleet. Then we break their wall, Elira said coldly. "All batteries. Fire." The Aegis of Dawn came alive, hurling streams of plasma and kinetic fire into the void. The enemy ships answered, in kind, the space between them becoming a storm of deadly light. The first wave pushed forward relentlessly, trying to close the distance. But the Aegis's strange new defenses, alien energy barriers the Keeper had unlocked, flared to life, absorbing strikes that should have torn the ship apart. Still, the enemy numbers were vast, and each minute dragged the Aegis closer to being surrounded. The tactical map showed no relief yet, no friendly signals. Then, just as the enemy began their final push, the sensors caught something, faint but growing. Dozens of new warp signatures rushing toward the battle, but the question burned in every mind. Were they allies answering the call, or another wave of enemies? The Aegis of Dawn shuddered under the weight of incoming fire. Shields rippled and flared as enemy rounds pounded against them. On the bridge, smoke hissed from overloaded panels, and the scent of burning metal hung heavy in the air. "Shields at 40%, the tactical officer reported. "We can't take this much longer." But then, those faint signals in the distance grew stronger. The sensor officer's voice trembled. "Multiple ships incoming. Vector 082. Arrival in 30 seconds." Elira stared at the display. The incoming signatures were large, powerful, but their energy patterns didn't match any known human or enemy design. "They're not from our fleet," the Keeper said quietly, eyes narrowing. Not from theirs either. That sent a ripple of unease through the crew. If they were neither ally nor enemy, then what were they? The first of the ships emerged from hyperspace with a soundless flash. It was colossal, larger even than the Aegis, its hull shaped like a blade of obsidian metal, marked with glowing patterns that shifted like living things. It moved without visible thrusters, as if space itself bent to its will. Then another appeared, and another. A dozen in all. They formed a wall between the Aegis and the enemy fleet. The enemy ships hesitated. Their advance slowed. It was the first time in the battle they'd shown uncertainty. On the bridge of the Aegis, the crew held their breath. The lead unknown vessel transmitted a signal. Just a single tone, deep and resonant, that seemed to vibrate through the hull. "Can we translate?" "It?" Elira asked. The Keeper tilted his head. "No, it is not language as you know it. It is intent." "What intent?" she pressed. He turned to face her, and for the first time since they met, there was something almost like fear in his voice. "They are here to choose a side." The battlefield was silent. No shots fired, no engines roaring, only the presence of the unknown fleet hanging like a shadow over both sides. Every eye on the Aegis of Dawn was fixed on the black, blade-like ships. The enemy, so fierce moments ago, now drifted uneasily, their weapons still armed but not firing. "Still no message," the communications officer whispered. "Just that, The low tone from the alien vessels continued, pulsing like a heartbeat through the void. It grew deeper, stronger, until it wasn't just heard, it was felt. Crew members clenched their teeth as if the sound pressed against their bones. Then the hum stopped. A single flash of white light blinked across the unknown fleet. Weapons powered up, silent, without the hiss or roar of human guns. "Brace!" Elira shouted, gripping the command chair. The unknown ships fired. Streams of blinding energy tore through the void, not toward the humans, but straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. Enemy cruisers erupted into fireballs before they could react. Their formation shattered instantly. "They're firing on them," the tactical officer gasped. "They're on our side." The black ships moved like predators, each strike precise, each maneuver impossibly sharp. Within minutes, what had been an unstoppable enemy armada was reduced to wreckage and drifting debris. Survivors fled, engines flaring in panic, abandoning the fight entirely. The humans didn't fire a single shot after the unknowns joined in. They didn't need to. When the last enemy ship vanished into hyperspace, the alien vessels turned in perfect unison toward the Aegis of Dawn. No weapons locked on. No threats were spoken. Instead, the lead ship projected a single image into the Aegis's main display, a human hand reaching outward, palm open. They want to talk, the keeper said softly. Elira stared at the image, her pulse racing. Whoever these beings were, they had just turned the tide of a hopeless war in a matter of minutes. But why? No one on the bridge moved, as if breathing too loudly might break the moment. Finally, Elira stood, shoulders squared. "Open a channel," she said. "Let's see who just saved humanity." The screen flickered, and for the first time, a voice. From the unknown ship spoke, deep, calm, and carrying a strange weight. "We have been watching you," it said. "And now, we will fight beside you." The crew exchanged stunned looks. Outside, the alien fleet began to move, positioning themselves in a protective arc around the human ships. For the first time in the war, humanity was not alone, and somewhere, deep inside, Elira knew this battle was only the beginning.